Hello, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us on our weekly calls. We're going to go through a couple of slides in the PowerPoint deck before opening it up with all of our speakers. So if we could just advance to the next slide, just to kind of go over some of the accomplishments and items that we've done in this past week. And for those of you that are just logging on right now, if you do not want to be recorded, go ahead and take yourself off of video. These sessions are recorded, so your image will get recorded. As a quick recap over this week, we have continued to fulfill the needs of our residents and our employees. We've taken the last 4 to 10 weeks to make sure that we were listening, that we were learning, and that we were delivering on some of the commitments, that we were making and that we were adhering. Here's just a couple more pictures. We do this every week. Some of the key transitional issues that Skid Row Housing Trust was experiencing and making sure they were managing appropriately was just the reintegration efforts. And just as a very quick recap, the organization was and is considered essential. So we had to make sure that we stayed on site, and I want to, the organization wants to, our board of directors wants to extend a really deep-seated gratitude to our frontline that stayed out there, focused on our mission, focused on our residents, focused on their health and safety, and focused on each other. So with that, thank you very, very much for doing what you did while you did your normal course of duty, the things that you show up to do every day. But in addition to that, it's just making sure that you've got the supplies that you needed, that you distributed the supplies to the residents, particularly those ones in the SRO units that had the community spaces and had to make sure that they had the hygiene kits and that they had the PPE. So we continue to do that this week. We're making sure that we position moving forward to make sure that we have on-site kits, because as this audience knows, COVID-19 has not stopped. It's not gone. We are just in economic reopening phases. So we're balancing kind of that reintegration of continuing to do what we do and how we've done it, but also coupling with the fact that the community is more engaged and more active and more excited to kind of go on and move about in the community, and just balancing the responsibility of the pandemic along with the reopening is something that our frontline teams are navigating. So again, thanks to you. In the next slide, we're just going to recap one last time in these weekly meetings. An initiative that we're really excited about. We're embarking on a Trust Access Center. I know the bullets are right in front of you, but we're really excited to go over them. This is something that we're pursuing here at the organization. The location is going to be at 1317 East 7th Street. It increases access to homeless services and resources right here at 7th and Central, where our headquarters is located at. It is a problem solver, a housing navigator, and a peer support. That's one of the 3 of the initiatives that we're looking to pursue at this resource center. There's immediate help with crisis, shelter, direct referrals for care, making sure that we are located and engaged with the community. There's no unnecessary barriers like sobriety, disability, and/or health and mental needs. And the next slide is a slide that we always, like to make sure that we bring awareness and attention to. Is there's always calls to action. We want to make sure that we always advocate to make a gift or a donation to our organization to make sure that it funnels its way back to our residents and our frontline employees that have needs. Advocate for housing and homelessness policies. Connect with Amazon wish list, very self-explanatory. And if you're not already on our mailing list, please share our information with your family and friends so that they can join the mailing list as well. And with those of you that just joined, if you guys could make sure you're either on mute, because we are recording the session and we're really excited about our upcoming speakers. So with that, we're going to bring Sierra on screen, and we're going to go through a couple of key issues. But in retrospect, one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I did as well is thank everyone that has been participating in these weekly calls. And for those of you that have just logged on to the calls, if you could hit your video, take your calls or your actions off of the camera since we're recording them, or off of the video would be great. So thank you for participating on a week-over-week basis. These calls began with a way to connect to our residents and our supporters on a regular basis. During the COVID-19 processes and the earliest stages of planning, we needed to understand what this crisis meant for ourselves, for our residents, for our unhoused neighbors, for our employees. And the first time it really affected and impacted us in our organizational community is when a gentleman by the name of Gerald Sharoma from the Union Rescue Mission was the first person to pass away. And that was the first reported known in Skid Row, and that really kind of called to action for partnership and advocacy. So we extended our support or respect to CEO Andy Bales, and from that point, partnership on and looking forward to making sure that we advocate for the right things once this pandemic passes as well. Another very impactful moment for us is when Diane Yentl, the CEO of National Low Income Housing Coalition, said a really important quote, that people are healthier when they are affordably and stably housed. And this has never been so obvious as it is right now. And I know there's a lot of people that are focusing in on this highlighted the disparities that we all fight for and on behalf of. So we're looking to make sure that that momentum is supported and velocity on action is taken moving forward. Tonight, I'll be talking to Sierra Adelano, our Chief Real Estate and Investment Officer, Antonio Lamons, our Chief Operating Officer, and Daniel Dart, the CEO of DEC Projects, who's been a phenomenal partner to the Trust. And with that, Sierra and I are going to open up our videos, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the discussions from her perspective. So, hello.
Hello.
Sierra, when this pandemic began, you mentioned, this is one of your quotes, that your construction crews and subcontractors have been doubling up because they understood the urgency of the situation and that they did more in the last 3 weeks than what had been done in 3 months. One of the buildings under construction is Joshua House at 649 Lofts. And one of our residents, Teresa Winkler, mentioned how much it meant to her to be housed and have LA Christian Health Center as her medical home. So kind of reflecting on the first call when we started this out, how does it feel hearing from Teresa and Dr. Lisa Abdishu about how Joshua House is coming about and looking back on that now?
It just reaffirmed why I've worked at the Trust. It reaffirms our mission and our dedication to do what we do every single day. I know that my team have listened in as well, and it just gave them this, a heartwarming feeling for what they do every single day. What we do is difficult. It's not easy work. As you know all too well, it's long hours, it's difficult financing, it's difficult, community relations. A lot of times we fight through a lot of NIMBYism to get our buildings built in the first place and to get them approved. And so to hear just the impact of what it feels like for a resident, and then for Lisa to express the need from another nonprofit on how this clinic is going to really impact the work that they do and bring medical services to the community who really needs it is just inspiring. It just helped us really push through in a very difficult time. Just like everyone else experiencing the pandemic, so were all of our staff in their personal life. And then to have to come to work and work in those environments, it just, just really helped push everybody along and just get us back into the mode that the whole reason why we're here is to really push our mission and to get other people housed that are not with housing right now.
Yeah. Really, really important points. You had also shared, with us early on that your development pipeline faced some risks, early risks. And in one of the evenings and one of the calls that we had, we hosted Brian Wiener from Manifest Recovery Centers and Adam Waldman from Refinery Creative. They're both YPO members that great key interest in what you do and how you do it. I know that you're continuing that partnership with them. And Adam said one of the key things that he said was, we're very close to the key that can unlock new solutions to housing. Things are moving much more rapidly than he would have ever imagined and anticipated. It's really exciting and heartening. As you look forward, can you share some of your thoughts regarding the future development while this economy reopens and the new norms get discovered and implemented?
Yeah, I think that, some of the concerns are also some of the things that I think I am happy about, and I'll explain. I think that what this really is going to highlight is that there are going to be more people that are going to be homeless, and there is going to definitely be a need for additional affordable housing. And while that is obviously a concern, it also helps in the fight that we've been working on for so long, is that I think there's been a stigmatism of who's homeless and who's not. And I think now, seeing that everyone was a paycheck away, that we've been talking about for a while, or at least a large number of people in California were a paycheck away from being homeless, having a pandemic occur like this, I think it's a leveling field for people. I think that people are going to really see now that how fragile our system really was, and that we need to put bigger things in place. It isn't about building one building or building two buildings in a community. It's about changing the way that we look at affordable housing. It's about changing the way that we plan for housing. It's about bringing, social equalities where there hasn't been any for 400 plus years. And I think all of these things are getting highlighted right now. And it's pushing people to really look at a bigger picture and a bigger solutions to housing, and to making sure that, it's equally affordable for everyone. So I'm hopeful that all of this has really brought that to light, and that we can start having those difficult conversations at how do we solve homelessness from a holistic point of view.
Well, obviously, thank you for everything that you do. And for those that are listening on the call, if you want to just take a drive down 7th, you can see a lot of the hard work that Sierra and her team has been really pushing forward before the pandemic, but definitely during the pandemic. And I think that would be an exciting thing for a lot of people to kind of drive by and see just the reality of that coming together, so. And then just as wrapping up, your section, is there any perspective that you would like to share with the audience, any parting information that you would like them to know at all in regards to maybe some of the projects, or just, what you're working on holistically?
Yeah, I mean, our construction projects have continued throughout the pandemic. We've had crews still continually show up, and we are looking to open up 2 of those buildings within the next couple of months. We can't wait to bring home, I know 153 new residents are going to join our community, and it's so exciting. I can't wait to see that, and just to welcome everybody home personally at that point in time. But I do want to part with the audience, and just to say that, like I started, that this work is really difficult. And I hope that if there's new communities that are being proposed in your area, that you really look at, some of the communities that we've brought online, and that you really embrace those communities coming into your area, and that it's not something that's looked upon or frowned upon, that you really understand that everybody needs housing. Housing is a right. It's not something that one person should have over another. It shouldn't be about what family you were born in, or what color you are when you're born. It should just be a right, no different than somebody's ability to eat. And it really is just that basic at the end of the day. And I just want to part with everybody hoping that's the view that they have of affordable housing and permanent supportive housing, and that they really look at someone that's homeless as just another person without a home, and how do we all help bring everyone home.
Well, thank you, obviously, for everything that you do. Thank you for making sure that you push our mission forward. Thank you for this evening, and looking forward to seeing all the things that you're going to do in the next couple months, next couple years.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we are going to, Sierra's going to sign off, and then we're going to have our Chief Operating Officer, Antonio Lamons, come online, and we're all going to get to know him. He's the newest member to the executive leadership team here at Skid Row Housing Trust, and we're really excited about him and everything that he is going to bring. And I don't know, Antonio, are you on the line? If you can just open up your...
Yes, I am.
That would be great. Okay, so you came on during an undesigned critical time, during just like a very crucial, in a crucial leadership role in the midst of a pandemic. Can you share your experience of joining
I'm sorry, Lee, it froze. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Okay.
Well, the first thing I'll say is it was certainly a first. To be onboarded during a pandemic was absolutely new. And I want to first just commend Skid Row Housing Trust on how that was handled, because it really set the tone for what my experience was to be. Because this could have been a situation where I felt that it would be upended because of the pandemic, and then I would be walking into chaos and madness because there was so much uncertainty and so much happening in the society that we were all trying to figure it out as we went. But I'm happy to say that when I got the call and my hiring documents and my computer and everything was couriered to me, this organization is in the 21st century. And so it was really cool to receive everything and have everything very systematic. So the onboarding was absolutely flawless, actually. And so when I actually started and began to, of course, all of my first 100 days plans were kind of upended. I didn't expect that my first act would be joining the crisis team, but fortunately, I have some crisis experience, and being a part of that team, which was already a well-oiled machine when I came on board, was magnificent. So it gave me an opportunity to meet with much of the staff in a very unconventional way, but also in a context where I think there was a different kind of openness than is often available when you join an organization. And so someone who's in operations, oftentimes you're having to fight through people in situations that are entrenched, and they want to do it the way it's always been done. So coming in during the pandemic kind of opened up the environment in a different way. So it's been amazing, actually. So they say in crises, there is always opportunity. And I am fortunate to be able to say that I've been able to experience that side of the pandemic as well. The opportunities not only in the work, but also the opportunity to be able to shepherd an operation that is rethinking how it wants to see itself post these changes in our society.
Yeah, very, very key points. And operationally, it's going to look a lot different, even than what we thought like 90 days ago about new rules are and how to keep people healthy and safe and proactive, so
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining the organization. A few meetings ago, or a few virtual community meetings ago, we obviously have had residents, speak at each of our virtual community meetings, but a gentleman by the name of Julian Steptoe really encouraged our audience. And one of his quotes was, "Look for the positive. Most of the people out here are not here by choice. Our society is very complicated, and a lot of people can get caught up in these complications. These people are your neighbors who've lost their homes." Our residents spoke up and have been really great partners, for us during these times. And one of the things, or two of the things that they in the pandemic was food and hygiene. And can you share with us how important you believe the hygiene kits provided by Lava Mayex, Right to Shower, Bombas, and Souls for Souls were to our residents? Because I know you went out there, and went to our properties and distributed that directly to them. So can you share what your thoughts were and how important that was to them?
Absolutely. Well, without a doubt, they were incredibly important. And the cornerstone, excuse me, of our response to the pandemic early on was personal hygiene. I mean, that was the key. There were so many questions in the very beginning. And so the mandate was to wash your hands and keep your hands out of your face and do these things that would seem pretty common sense, pretty available to everybody. But the reality is that that wasn't the reality for many of our residents. And so even to have the resources to acquire hand sanitizer or masks, oftentimes things that are very simple are prohibitive when you don't have the same kind of resources. So when we showed up at the various properties with the hygiene kits that also included PPE, which was people really, really welcomed because it made the difference between their ability to do the self-care that was necessary in order for them to responsibly, if you will, participate in helping to slow the spread, et cetera. And we're so grateful to those that supported us and donated those things so that we could make them available. And the good news about it is we were able to make them available to a large number of people. You know, we're 1,800 people. And the team at Skid Row Housing Trust, our PMC team and all of the support staff that came together to package them and pay attention to size, you know, all of the little details, which really made the difference in the experience. I mean, you could just show up with a bunch of shoes, but no, we wanted to find out what sizes are the people at the different properties so that we could make the packages and have them available so that it's meaningful. And they were so appreciative. I was excited to be able to take a few photographs, and I got to talk with people while I was there. And I have to say, I count that among one of the highlights of my first 45 days is really getting the opportunity to go out and meet with residents, because that was part of what my plan was, is to, you know, go to as many properties, meet as many people, et cetera. And we had to do that in a different way and be a little bit more cautious about how we maneuver through the environment. But it was a really wonderful experience, and the joy, the appreciation, and the recognition of being heard, like that can't be underestimated. That recognition of being heard, I think that that's what stood out most for me.
Yeah, we heard that, you know, to echo your point, from our residents. And the key points of the virtual community meetings was like, people are listening, and not only are they listening, they care to take action.
Absolutely.
And that was not just a wonderful feeling. It was a safe feeling almost during a time where people were very, very concerned. So
I agree.
I hear you. We got a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback on a call that we had with Assemblymember Miguel Santiago. He also was on a panel with a woman by the name of Daisy Serrano from Milpa Grill, Mario and Cesar Amendares from Adventist Health White Memorial. And they shared, and we shared, how quickly and creatively that we had to come together to start feeding people in our SRO units that couldn't share a community kitchen anymore. Yeah. So people, to your point, like just the details that people needed to understand, like people need to eat, but they don't have a kitchen, and they can't go to the community kitchen, and they're not supposed to leave, but they don't have access to a grocery store. It was really, really complicated. That needed a lot of energy to kind of come together. Can you help, you know, our audience just understand the importance of meal delivery to the SROs while simultaneously trying to manage this kind of shelter in place, safer at home mandate?
Yes. So I want to speak to that in a couple ways. So, you know, with my operations and systems hat on, so I want to say, yes, the community responded. They responded in an incredible way. I mean, in terms of the donations and the support. And it's always interesting. You can put out an ask, right? And you don't necessarily know what the response. And I have to say, we were not ready for the avalanche of response that we got. And being the operations guy, I was keenly aware of that. But what was there, in addition to needing to figure out how to now take this avalanche of response and deploy it in a way that is sensible, meets food code. I mean, there's all these things that needed to be handled very quickly. The team was able to come together and sort that out, put together an operational and deployment plan and execute on it so that now it is running, to my delight, like a well-oiled machine as we continue to deliver meals every day of the week to our residents. And yes, so it was, I can't articulate how important it was. And I raise that operational point of view because it's a lot of times you can have the thing that you need and then you just want to respond to the need. And it could be overwhelming, but our commitment and again, us understanding the importance and then putting it in place so that people could truly be taken care of was a wonderful operation to be a part of, and the joy that everyone who participated in making that and continue to make that happen is apparent.
We had an event happen in the community. We're having an event right now, as well, currently, but we had a fire in the community, and it was in close proximity to our community. But even equally as important, we had the Station 9 that's located in Skid Row was the unit that responded and was the unit that was affected. So we had Deputy Chief Legal from the LA department come on and talk to our audience, and it was another, moment of coming together because of a moment of sadness, and it was interesting to hear your perspective about that during this time. So what did you learn about Skid Row's Station 9 and their commitment to the community during that week?
Before I speak to that, I just want to say that we're happy that all of the firefighters that were injured are recovering post that incident. I think Deputy Chief Fiegel said it best. He talked about being at 1.2 square miles in the smallest area of the city that runs the most calls in the city and in the nation, where they have 21 firefighters and paramedics who are at the site 24/7, 27,000 calls a year. And the fighter fires who are at Station 9 are there because they want to be there.
Yeah.
And they are dedicated to serving the community because they choose to. That really spoke volumes, because when you think of services in particular, whether that be the fire department or the police department, oftentimes you don't feel the heart of that per se. You realize the responsibility that that agency or institution has, and the members of that institution may deliver on the responsibility. But what was clear there was the heart that was very, very sincere, and the care and dedication to the community that Station 9 serves. Yeah. And you could also see it reciprocated, because our staff and our residents they know these firefighters by name. And when this happened, there was a lot of discussion about checking on this one or checking on that one. And that's one of the hallmarks of community. So what I learned was that they are a symbol of what community is all about. And it speaks to some of the things that Sierra was saying earlier about how we oftentimes people look at the unhoused community as different and other. And what came through when the deputy chief was on was that we're all one. And that was a beautiful, beautiful message. And I hope not only the people who heard that night realized that, but that people hearing me reshare it realize that as well. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And then as we wrap up kind of your section, we were really excited to have even though you're not really getting to meet everyone, you will get to meet everyone shortly. They do get to meet you tonight. So that's a warm and wonderful approach and feeling. And I know that, the resident community and the teams have really enjoyed you coming on site, and really symbolizing that service centricity, that mission focus, that making sure that health and wellness is in the forefront of everyone's mind, security and safety is in the forefront of everyone's mind. Is there any parting words or information that you want our audience to know or hear from the experience just in general, or the commitment you have to housing and homelessness?
Sure. Well, first, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the residents as well as the staff, because my welcome has been amazing. I mean, it's been warm, it's been embracing, and it's felt supportive since day one. And that means a lot to me. As people get to know me more, I joke with my friends that my career has prepared me for this particular role. I've done a lot of things over the last 25 plus years, but it is a potpourri of experience that is perfect for an organization like this, who has a strong mission, who also has an infrastructure and a talented C-suite and a dedicated staff that all comes together to deliver on something that has the potential to impact humanity in a way that's incredible. And I, on my last birthday, made a personal commitment that the only things I would involve myself with or align myself with was high impact opportunities. And I'm happy to say that this feels like an incredibly high impact opportunity. And I look forward to meeting everyone personally over time.
Well, thank you, Antonio. Again, grateful that you're on the team, grateful that you're part of this, and looking forward for you to, when this opens up, you having one-on-one time with a lot of our audience members. So significantly appreciate that.
Thank you.
So with that, we're going to transition from Antonio, and we're going to go with our lived experience guest speaker tonight, Daniel Dart, and he'll be on the line. He'll be opening up his video feed in a couple of minutes. We're really excited to have him here because he's been, before he was even part of Skid Row Housing Trust, and then he is now, I see you're here. So awesome. So yeah, if we could get Erica, if we could get Daniel on the screen, that'd be great. And there he is. Welcome, Daniel. I know you're so far away, and I know that you're working at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. in the morning, so we appreciate your ongoing dedication, but your symbolic dedication here tonight too, in joining us. So thank you very, very much. So something that you could kind of introduce yourself, share some of your background and how you really became involved as an advocate and just passion towards what you are fighting for.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Perfect. Okay, well, a little bit about my backstory. I cut in and out. Well, one, I am calling from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, so it's literally pretty much on the other side of the world. But a little bit of my background is growing up in California through a series of unfortunate events. I ended up homeless when I was a little 18 years old, and I stayed homeless until I was about 21. And from there, it's something that's kind of impacted me throughout my entire life. And now at almost 40, it's something that's still definitely very, very important to me. And I think just from a random kind of thing when we were talking about, I'm going to bounce around a little bit, but we were talking about favorite things from conversations, and there was something that Peter said, Raymond Peters, I believe was his name, talking about people should care about people in Skid Row, because when you're there, you get stigmatized, and it's easy for people to think you're lazy, and that's not the case, and most of us suffered and just need a hand up. and not a handout. And these donations can change lives. And I think it's just super powerful when you look at stuff. And recently I'm like applying for grad school, and like, so I'm applying for grad school, but at the same time, like, I was homeless for a long time. And so I think sometimes forget the disconnect because they only see you how you are today, instead of seeing you as you were. And so I always try to keep that in my mind, that now that like kind of life is good and I have more success, people want to be my friend. Yet at the same time, I was the same exact person. I was homeless, and no one wanted to talk to me or shake my hand or hang out with me. And I think that's super important.
I know that you're a CEO of an organization now, like, you know, kind of talking about the successes, and just you've dedicated this energy, this mission, this passion, you know, for your cause. What are some of the projects that you're working on at DEC Projects right now?
There's a lot of projects. I think what I'm thinking about now is, and so I'm going to talk about one in particular. So recently, when the COVID corona hit, all of a sudden we found ourselves in these positions. And one of the things that I work on in the Middle East is I do a lot of strategy for the Prime Minister and the Minister of Entrepreneurship of the state of Palestine. And just recently, we've been tasked to write their 5-year national vision for investment and entrepreneurship and tech. And last night I was on with like a global senior economist for the World Bank, and also being conscious that I had to wake up early for this call today, and kind of those different things, because I think it goes back to this different stuff of like resilience. And there's a story that I heard recently that I thought was amazing, and I think it's really true. Well, I mean, it's held true to me, but they put these 3 rats into glasses of water so they could not reach the top. They put them in there, and then they let them fight and fight and fight until they drown and they give up. And so what they do is, when they first did it, on the average time, at 15 minutes, the rat would give up and just be okay with drowning. And then the researchers would pour out the water, right, so the rat would live. And they would do that. And the second time, the average time before the rat gave up was 80 hours. From 15 minutes to 80 hours. And so I read this, and I kind of feel like when I'm looking at this COVID and all the stuff going on, I kind of feel like that rat, because like stuff is so hard right now, but like I will not forfeit. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I might lose and I might get beat up, but I'm not going to give up, and I'm not going to negotiate against myself. And when I read that story recently, it kind of reminded me about the resilience that I see really in the Skid Row community. And that's what it is. It's because like we have been on that verge of drowning, and all we need is someone to come and help us out, because we're willing to do what it takes to survive.
You know, with that, when I first met you, we were in a group, and I asked you, like, well, why Skid Row Housing Trust? How did you come about Skid Row Housing Trust? And you gave me this answer that, you know, I really wasn't prepared for, and I actually learned a lot in that moment that you said it. But you said you were in the street, in the community, and you were talking to people in homeless encampments, and you asked who is the best in providing services or support or empathy. And the homeless encampment community said Skid Row Housing Trust. And it so shocked me on so many different levels. You asked, you heard, you learned, you followed through. You know, it made me honored to work for the organization already more than I was. And I think it's good that you share that with this audience too, because this audience is very committed to Skid Row, the community and Skid Row Housing Trust. But, you know, if you could
yeah,
really, really powerful.
Well, okay, so when we first connected was through an event that happened last year. It was called Rich City Poor Man, and that event really was spawned during a conversation when someone just haphazardly made a careless and offensive comment about homeless people, and like I mentioned earlier, my life has changed significantly over the past few years. So I think sometimes people say stuff and they don't realize how personal or how much it impacts me. And so during that time, I said, okay, I want to tell stories and talk about these things and kind of separate. But my belief is when we see homeless people, they all get amalgamated into one person, right? So it's like they no longer become individuals. So when someone comes up and says like, hey, can I get $1 or something? You don't see that person. You see the amalgamation of every single person you see in your life and through pop media, culture, or all of this stuff. And they all come and kind of take on this faceless thing. And so I wanted to kind of separate that and say like, hey, we're all individuals and we're all people. And so during that time when I started going down there to start stuff, my whole thing is I didn't really want to be a voice. I just wanted to be a microphone, really loud amplifier and stuff like that. And so one of the most essential things was who is there, who is going to be there that's been there, because like, you know, unfortunately throughout my life I was in prison, and I used to always say, hey, I'm just breezing through, right? I'm not a prison guy. I'm just a guy who went to prison. And at the same time, like, yeah, I'm here and I really want to be involved and do everything I can. There are people that are down there day in, day out, every night, every day, every afternoon. And those are the people that it's like, yo, this is your community. Like, you're the one that's going to be here after I'm gone or whatever, right? They're not saying I'm going to leave, but the whole point is there's a lot of people doing amazing work for a long time. And so I asked people, I say, hey, who's the best? And you're surprisingly, like I didn't know, but every single person, I must have spoke to like 20 people in a row that were like Skid Row Housing Trust. And I'm like, what the fuck is Skid Row Housing Trust? You know, because you hear about kind of these big names like United Way, where like you don't know what they really do, but you hear them because you see their logos and like stuff, you know, and they have a television campaign. And so, and then I reached out to someone at Skid Row Housing Trust. The first person I ever reached out to, I think, was you on accident, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we connected. And there was a long roundabout change, you know, last year. So it just really described your perseverance and tenacity. But this element of how you came about into our world was amazing. So, and it is an interesting story to hear, like, that really resonated with the team that was at the table when you told that too. Is like, oh, okay. It kind of like stepped us up a little bit, like, pay attention. If you thought you were tired, start working harder, you know? So that was so thank you for that. You know, one of the things that people don't know about you, and I know it's not like super easy for you to talk about because it's kind of a brag a little bit, but a lot of people are very interested in this, how you parlayed into politics. Like, you were on the floor, you were fighting, you were advocating, you were part of a team under the Obama administration. That is very interesting to a lot of people. And some of that might have cut out a little bit, you know, when you were speaking about it earlier. But if you could just kind of expand a little bit, because your depth is interesting. So kind of just, if you could talk a little bit about the political arena that you've played, it would be great.
Okay, so actually, it just kind of happened from getting involved in community organizing, and so one thing that I think is so important, that I think like my authenticity is my currency, and I think that there's something so valuable about living their experience, and I think now they're more, because all the studies show the more diverse opinions you have, the better performances, all of these different things. As I first got involved, it was really on criminal justice and all of these different things, from my criminal court, and then trying to get back out and rebuild my life. It was so incredibly difficult. Yet I had a network, because I also had this band, so I had all this stuff, and it felt like it was almost impossible. You know, it's like what I try to explain to people is like, imagine me taking you to a city you've never been, taking your wallet, taking your phone, and everything you have, and then just like dropping you in the middle of the city, and then like almost picking on you if you don't do well. And so as that kind of happened, there was this thing where I'd be involved, and people would kind of say stuff about criminal justice and court cases. And actually, I guess like you could say my big breaking point was I was at a conference, and I had got invited to this conference to talk about lived experience through the criminal justice system. And I ended up getting in a disagreement with Kamala Harris in her office when she was the AG, about the difference between right and wrong and criminalization, and how we criminalize everything, even homelessness, right? You can't be on the street like you're a criminal. Perfect example is what just happened recently in Minneapolis, right? Like, it's like, yo, man, like, poverty, against race, against all these things. And she had made a comment about supporting the little guy, and I said, well, that's not really true, you know. And I think a lot of people don't know that because they don't know enough about the policy. But I don't think that's true. We had a conversation, and then after, this woman named Carmen Berkeley pulled me aside and said, hey, what you just said in that argument, you come to Washington, D.C. and say that. And I didn't know who this woman was. I was like, yo, I'm on parole. I'm not going to be able to go to Washington, D.C. And she ended up being the civil human women's rights director of the AFL-CIO, which is America's biggest union, and went on to become the managing director of all Planned Parenthood. And so she just like kept saying, hey, just come talk, share your story. And from there, just kind of one thing led to another, where I think just like stories and storytelling and the power, I think is super valuable. And I think there's so much value in just bringing people together, you know? I don't know if that helps, but I feel like I was all over the place.
No, that was perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So in kind of like at least wrapping up your section of this meeting, we're looking to do these weekly meetings on a monthly basis going forward. And we really want to make sure that we're delivering like information and perspective to people that are going to continuing to follow, because they want to know when will we be back on. So we're going to try to convert to monthly now that we're coming out of COVID-19, focus on the future. What does that new world look like? You know, so, and obviously we value our partnerships. We value our relationship with you and your organization, and look forward to all of the developing plans moving forward. Could in the wrap up, could you share a little bit about the leadership councils and some of the other strategic initiatives that we'll be reviewing on the monthly calls going forward?
Okay. So one of the things that I think is bad is just getting people in the room and having conversations from like a diverse set of viewpoints, or like what I would consider like tribal councils, right? Like, you know, it's just almost like Survivor. We're going to bring people together and talk about it. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is I look at like there's three different things to make change, right? One is culture. So you need media, you need all that. One is like strategy and kind of like policy or like subject matter expertise. And then the third is capital, right? If you have those three pillars, you kind of spin them together like a candy cane, you can create really massive social change. So what we're doing is we're putting together these leadership council working groups that are going to meet once a month, and a few times a year we're going to meet in person. But the whole goal is to not only kind of leverage them to help push our mission forward, but also to be a conduit for homelessness and what's really going on. And so I think a lot of times, especially in LA with the entertainment community, is there's a lot of people I think who want to help, but it's this huge, almost insurmountable, nebulous kind of like moving target. And so I think nobody really knows where to go to get information. And so hopefully we can create, you know, these kind of conduits and brain trusting and groups of people in the entertainment and media circle and kind of finance and banking circle and then consultant strategy circle, and be kind of a back and forth. So they have the right information, and then we also can tap into their support, especially like Antonio said, when you do a call to action, when you do an ask, there's so many people that want to help, they just don't know, and hopefully together we can kind of solve that.
Well, we're really excited about that. We're grateful, we're excited. And in wrapping up, you know, is there any information, perspective, story, data that you want to share with this audience to make sure that when they walk away, you know, there's something that they can carry forward?
I think just thank everybody on the call for being part of what's going on. It's so valuable. And the work that everyone's doing is just so big. And I know it's hard, but like I totally believe in us as a collective and a community to get through this. And I don't know if it's going to be better. I think it's going to be different, but I truly believe, kind of like the grass I talked about in the water, like we're so strong, and we can go 80 hours, you know. So it's like, and people are counting on us too. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, like this is the last house on the block. You know what I mean? Like we do not have the luxury to phone it in or back out, and that's not what we're here for.
Well, Daniel, Dar, thank you very much for everything that you do in general, for us, for the partnership. We look forward to your safe and healthy return soon. We look forward to your continued partnership, and we will connect with you in a couple of days. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. And now we're going to be wrapping up, and I'm going to be turning the mic and the visuals back to Jett and Erica. I want to make a very quick shout out to both Jett and Erica. When, like I said in the beginning, just to pull it full circle, is they pulled together these virtual community meetings because people wanted to understand what was happening in the front line in a distressed community and how are we going to keep them safe. So in order to respond to that, we didn't really know what the answer was. And Erica created it. So Skid Row Housing Trust and the team members here want to thank her for that. Jett really put the infrastructure together to make sure that that happened and really nurtured all the relationships that came from it. We're very, very grateful for everything that happened during this time. We're very much looking forward to fighting a better, stronger, position moving forward. I want to again thank our teams, to the deepest levels of our gratitude from leadership and our board. Without you, we would not have been able to serve the residents, and the residents are very, very important to us. So thank you all for tuning in, and thank you all for supporting us. And we look forward to having these meetings and sharing this information on a monthly basis. And with that, thank you very much again. And I am turning it now over to Jett.
Hi, everybody. I really want to thank you for your support over the last 10 weeks. We have learned so much and grown so much, and I think everybody on the team really feels inspired and excited and energized to move forward. And so the calls to action are the same as ever. The donations that we've received during this crisis have provided a vital lifeline to keep the trust moving while we incurred extraordinary expenses to make sure that our team members and our residents were safe. And we are profoundly grateful for that. We do know that going forward, there will be significant changes to pretty much all of our funding structures, and your ongoing support is tremendously important. The links on this slide are all live. And so if you're interested in any particular action, you can click and take it from your screen. A key thing that we really want for the people who are invested enough to actually join us on a weekly or monthly basis and hear what's happening and share an hour of your life with us is to just affirm that you support emergency funding for permanent supportive housing, affordable housing, and services for people who have experienced homelessness. We have an Amazon wish list. A lot of people enjoy giving that way. And our health and social services team had put together a list early on, and we do receive gifts every week. And so if you prefer to support us through online shopping, you can do that. And then finally, if you're on our mailing list, and that's why you're on this call, thank you. If you're not on our mailing list, please join it. And if you are, please share it with your friends. Erica, if you could advance the slide. For the Q&A portion, I don't have any questions, but Daniel, you have raving fans. Corey and Bogart, who you know very well, find you deeply inspiring, as does Marvina Scott. So you just got a lot of like shout outs. Okay, Erica, I will turn it over to you to wrap up for next month.
Thanks, everyone. We look forward to seeing you next month.